Hello everyone and welcome back to another Marvel Crisis Protocol Battle Report. Today for you we have a sort of rematch in a 20 threat match between the Avengers and Brotherhood of Mutants, but both sides are featuring some of the newest releases that are sadly delayed into the new year. And on that subject, I believe this will be posted after New Year, so Happy New Year's. Let's look at the teams. So here is our Avengers team this time, and of course the giant Hulkbuster is here. However, the team will be using Steve Rogers' leadership, Captain America, with his newly boosted and changed stats. So he is the leader, but we also have Colossus, we have his sister Magic, and we have War Machine. Their tactics cards are Journey Through Limbo, Second Wind, Helios Laser Bombardment, Versatile Strategy, and Heavy Ordnance. And despite it being a 20 threat match, there is only 4 miniatures in the Brotherhood list, but there is some heavy hitters here. And this is why it's a little bit of a rematch, because obviously Magneto is here with his From the Ruins affiliation bonus rule. We have Scarlet Witch, who got picked on by the Hulkbuster last time, so she'll be looking to avoid that this time. Omega Red is here to cause some AoE poison and just be a nuisance. But the new large lad on the table is of course the Juggernaut. Surprisingly, shockingly fast for only being a small movement, thanks to some of his rules that we'll discuss as we play. But yeah, he's going to be stomping through some scenery and getting powered up punches if he moves in a turn and stuff like that. Their tactics cards are Magnetic Crush, the Whims of Chaos, Carbonadium Synthesizer, Making a Ruckus, and Do You Know Who I Am? And here's the 2 crisis cards being played. The Secure is Intrusions Open Across the City as Seals Collapse. That's the 3 Dormammu portals in Map C. The other mission is also using Map C. 1 VP for each portal controlled, and you can spend power to teleport through the portals, but you take damage and drop any objectives you're holding, and you control them by control them by rolling hits, crits and wows. No, you don't. You teleport successfully on hit, crits, wows or shields, but if you roll a skull, you get placed by the opponent and you suffer damage in either instance. The Extraction is the threat value being played. It's the horrible rubble piles with the Kree power core hidden in it. You've got to roll a crit on 2 dice to find it, and you score 2 VPs if you're holding it, and if you are holding it and have an activation in which you don't attack, you suffer 1 damage. But it's also using the Map C layout, so Rubble Pile Portal, Rubble Pile Portal, the portals are underneath, and Rubble Pile Portal over there as well. With that, we're back at deployment. So here we are at deployment, all good to go. The Avengers are on your left, and once again, just to be clear, they are using the Steve Rogers affiliation bonus, not the Hulkbusters. And then on the right we have the Brotherhood, and the portals and Kree Power Core Rubble Piles right up the middle. So we have the siblings over here. We've got Colossus and Magic next to each other, we have the Hulkbuster in the middle, and then Steve Rogers and War Machine up there. And then down here we've got Scarlet Witch and Omega Red, and then Magneto and the Juggernaut. And Magneto has set up his first construct right there for reasons I'm sure we'll see. So with that, we're ready to jump in and get started. Avengers with priority. So War Machine got the game started for the Avengers, and he double medium moved up over here to the Kree Power Core, and we're going to roll live because I think sometimes people don't believe how bad it is trying to find the Kree Power Core. So we're going to prove it. It's going to be on camera. He is spending 1 power to check that pile right there. And let's see. The dice rolled quite far, but no crits, no power core. So first up for the Brotherhood is going to be the Juggernaut, but we're going to talk through his turn in steps because it really goes to show like how potent he is, specifically when teamed with Magneto, but also just in general. So he's done 1 action, he's kind of shifted forwards ever so slightly, so he's right there. If he completes a move action, his passive kicks in, which I've forgotten the name of. What is it called? It is called Unstoppable Momentum, where he generates 2 power just for moving, which gives him 3 in total because he gets 1 in the power phase, and means that the next attack he does this turn would get 3 dice, so he's not going to attack. But with that 3 power, he can spend it for Nothing Stops the Juggernaut, in which he is pushed small. If he hits a character, he damages them and stops. If he goes through scenery that's size 3 or less, he destroys it and keeps going. So if we have the small icon here, he's going to push himself this way, destroy this. Magneto's affiliation bonus kicks in, so that means 4 power is going to get distributed because they're both size 2. And then he still has an action left, so he'll move small and be next to the central portal and the Rubble Pile. Doesn't have any power, and like, oh actually no, he totally could, because Magneto could give him 1 power. So he could still check for the rubble core, so we'll be back in a second. So yeah, despite being deceptively... well, sorry, he's deceptively fast. Despite appearing to be slow, this is where the Juggernaut ended up, because again, first action, half of a move. Not even a full move, just like maybe a third of a move. Then that generated him enough power to do a free move with his ramming. And then after that he could do another one. And he situated himself, thanks to his large base right there, such that if the Hulkbuster repulsor blasts him, he's going to get pushed into the barrels and not away from the objective, which he's next to. And thanks to destroying scenery and Magneto's affiliation bonus, everyone in the Brotherhood got 1 power, because it was 2 size 2s that got destroyed, and you can only give 1 to each person in a turn. So he's spending that 1 power on checking for the core. He didn't get it, which is par for the course. But still, that just shows you what the Juggernaut can do, especially with Magneto backing him up. So the big Hulkbuster was up to face down the Juggernaut. Spent 2 down to 1 because of Steve's leadership on hit and run, so he moved forwards medium, then did a heavy repulsor blast that generates 1 power even if you do no damage. It did do 2 in Juggernaut. He has an ability called Nice Punch, where he can spend 1 to reduce damage taken by 1, kind of similar to Crossbones, but he didn't have any power at the time, so he did take 2 damage of that. Or from that. He has 8 HP, so he's not really hurting that much so far. And then, because he can only do hit and run once per turn, the Hulkbuster just did a move action for his second action, because hit and run is an action, and he's going to try and find that power core, because you want a character with a lot of HP to be the one holding it. Nope, not at all. Magneto activated for the Brotherhood and did 2 small moves, because he is slow, to get just within 1 of the central flaming portal and also Kree rubble pile. But thanks to the destruction of Juggernaut earlier, he had enough power to use Fatal Attraction, is that the one? Where you spend power equal to something within 3 you want to throw long. He paid 2 to pick up the car that was on the road and chuck it into the Hulkbuster, who did not use Bulk to take it. He kind of wanted the extra power to play with, honestly. Did 2 damage to him, he only blocked 1, because it's size +1 for damage. And with that, Magneto is spending the power he is getting from himself, thanks to destroying that car. The other one went to Juggernaut, to try and find the power core. So let's see. Oh, and of course not. Of course not. Steve Rogers activated next, and do remember we're using his updated card. So it's relevant because he moved up medium and then he did a shield throw. His shield throw is now 5 dice, and much like Sam's, generates a flat 1 power instead of nothing, which is what it was before. Also, we got the first spike of the game. He got massive damage through on Juggernaut. It would have been 5 damage because Juggernaut had literally 0 successes and he has 4 physical defense, so that was very bad in terms of defense roll, and also on a decent spike for an initial roll on 5 dice. He paid 1 for Nice Punch to reduce it down to 4, taking him to 6 damage in total. It's new model syndrome. But then also he did have a wild, so it bounced into Magneto's head. It spiked against Magneto as well. It would have done 4 to him, but luckily his base defense of 3 physical dice involved a couple of crits, so it only did 1 to him. But yeah, I remember like once previously, this is pre-buff, there was a shield throw either from Steve or Sam that spiked in a similar manner. Well, par for the course. Of the 2 activations left for the Brotherhood of Mutants, Omega Red activated and just moved forward small twice, which was enough to get him into the centre there to spend 1 power, and he had been given an extra 1 by Magneto earlier via the affiliation bonus to look for that core, and he didn't find it. It's a way to steal power in Battle Round 1. So of the Rasputins, it was Magic who activated first, because if she ends up getting shot at by Scarlet Witch's Hex Bolts, she's got the best Mystic defense. She moves medium, and that was enough to get her into the centre there to spend her 1 power from the power phase to try and find the core, and of course she also wasted her power. Now it's over to Scarlet Witch to end off the first battle round for the Brotherhood. And Wanda did decide to just double move in order to secure that flaming portal, and also to try for the core, and of course she did not find it. So it's over to Colossus to end the round proper. So this is going to end up being a very low scoring battle round 1, but Colossus moved up small twice. Oh, just realised also obviously they would get poison from Omega Red, which is important because that's going to stifle their power generation, so the markers will be there for the cleanup. He is spending his 1 power, he is looking for that core. He did not find it. So then a battle round 1, thanks to nobody finding the core, and not for lack of trying obviously. That does mean there wasn't that many points on offer, just the 3 from the portals. This portal down here is a draw between two healthy characters on each side. Also there is the poison. As far as immunities go, Colossus is immune to bleed, but nothing else, and Magic has no immunities. So they are poisoned, so that means they're not getting any power in the power phase, because it's just going to get drained. This portal, Dormammu portal, is held by the Brotherhood because of Magneto and Juggernaut. And then Rhodey up there by himself is holding that one for the Avengers. So as we go into Battle Round 2, it's a massive 1 victory point each. And the Brotherhood have taken first activation rather, with priority, unless they decide to pass. So we are starting Battle Round 2, but before we go into what is most likely Juggernaut's activation, just showing where Magneto is creating his metal construct, because it's probably going to be very important for what Juggernaut then goes on to do. So as it turns out, it was not important to show you where Magneto raised his metal construct, because the Juggernaut did not use it. The Hulkbuster was within range 2 of him, so he did 2 of his basic strikes, and it's the stereotypical pretty strong strike, 5 dice physical with an optional throw on a wild. Sorry, an optional push rather. He did 2 of those on the Hulkbuster, and they were pretty bad, so the Hulkbuster was able to fully block damage each time. But the Avengers are probably kicking themselves for not changing to the Hulkbuster's affiliation bonus in the power phase, because then he spent 3 on Do You Know Who I Am? Which is an active unaffiliated. Juggernaut can spend 3 to play this card, choose an interactive terrain feature or an enemy character size 4 or less within 2 of Juggernaut and throw it long. So he picked up the Hulkbuster, which is size 4, and chucked it at Steve Rogers. So Hulkbuster, 1 flat damage, didn't use Nice Punch, or whatever it's called for him, built to take it, that's the one. Steve Rogers did pretty okay with his block though, and managed to block most of it and only took 2 damage from it, so it wasn't that great of a spend on the card. He did also spend 1 to check for the power core prior to doing his attacks, but because we're doing those on camera, just covering it right now. And the Juggernaut has actually found the power core, and he didn't attack in his turn, so he won't take damage. So yeah, he's only, oh that's bad though, he's only got 2 health left. Well, at least someone found it. So it was a busy turn for the Hulkbuster to get the Avengers turn 2 started. However, a correction from turn 1, I realised confused hit and run with charge. However, it fundamentally makes no difference, because the Hulkbuster hit and ran and then moved. Obviously you can't do that because hit and run is attack first then move, but reverse the activation order and nothing changes. If he'd moved first then hit and ran, he still would have been able to hit Juggernaut and still moved afterwards. So it makes no difference, but yes, got hit and run in charge confused despite saying hit and run. Anyway, Hulkbuster activated, and Second Wind was just played at the start of the activation. Hulkbuster and Captain America both played 1 to heal 1. Then he spent 3 on Meteor Punch on the Juggernaut just to guarantee the stun. Did 4 damage, needed to do 2, so there was no point using Nice Punch. And he gets no power from the damage from Meteor Punch. It also has Explosion on a wild, which it did explode. It hit Magneto because he was within range 2 at the time for 1 damage. Then for his other action, he spent 2 down to 1 thanks to Cap's leadership, after paying 1 to pick up the core from the unconscious Juggernaut. To do hit and run properly this time, attack first then move, pushed Magneto back, did not do any damage to him however, so he generated 1 power, as in the Hulkbuster generated 1 power because he gets 1 power if the attack does no damage, and then he ran away over here to Rhodey to guard this portal over here and hold on to his Kree power core. So new model syndrome indeed. The Brotherhood activated a Mega Red next. He stayed exactly where he was and just did 2 of his basic 5 dice tendril attacks on to Magic, because she is a pretty decent counter against Wanda, because her Mystic defense is 4 and Wild in her defense against Mystic attacks turn successes to blanks. So an okay counter to her, but that's not going to matter. The first strike did 2, the second one did 4. She only has 5 health on her healthy side, so Magic is not getting a turn. She is dazed. And there was no bodyguard from Colossus because he has no power with which to do it. And even if he hadn't quite taken her out, he has more than enough power now. He could have done Death Spores to do that 2 force damage through to her, because she was poisoned, so there was no hope for her again in that particular matchup. So we're staying over here because Colossus wanted to get some payback against, well, doesn't make much sense because he attacked Wanda, but whatever. He did 2 strikes against her for his turn. The first one did not do well, only did 1. Second one spiked a little bit against her defense, and she is counting skulls as successes for defending, remember. But it did 3, so she's taken 4 of her 6 damage. Not enough to take her out, so now she's sitting on a lot of power with which to destroy Colossus. He does have a throw, and he's sitting on enough power that he could do it, but it's terrain only. Actually, if it's in range 2, I wonder if is he strong enough to pick up. That would be like a size 3. Let's see. Oh yeah, he can indeed select a bit of terrain within 2, of which this is. Size 3 or less. This is size 3 because it's larger than a size 2 car. Hoof it at Wanda, and she has taken 3 damage, sorry, which is enough that she is dazed. Now that getting destroyed is going to give out some power thanks to Magneto's affiliation bonus, but it's probably worth it to make sure the Scarlet Witch does not get a turn this battle round. So it would be Magneto activating as the last person for the Brotherhood this turn, but because he's the last person, he had a pass available, so he used it, so War Machine activated instead. He paid 1 power to travel through the portal, and he succeeded in not having to be placed by the opponent, so he plopped himself out all the way over here on the other side of the table, right here, took 1 damage for travelling through the portal, and then unleashed 2 of his metal storms into Mega Red. The first one was fully blocked. The second one, however, did manage to spike a little bit, did 4 down to 3, and for his trouble he's also poisoned because he ended his activation within 2 of Mega Red, but now he and Colossus have control of that portal, more importantly. So Magneto moved up small, and that put him millimeters just within range 3 of Cap, so he did reverse polarity, and because he was outside of range 2, he gets pushed in whatever direction small afterwards, and he got pushed away to try and make it that he can't use 2 moves to contest the central portal. He took 1 damage for his trouble as well, but Magneto's doing nothing else. He's sitting on quite a bit of power, but that's because he doesn't want to destroy any scenery just yet, because there isn't anyone to distribute power to, really. Well, last activation for Battle Round 2 was Steve Rogers, and despite being pushed back small, 2 medium moves was enough that, a little awkwardly, he could get right literally on top of the central flaming portal to contest it against Magneto. So that does take us to scoring. So then Battle Round 2, that was a little bit of a rough one for the Brotherhood, with both the Juggernaut and the Scarlet Witch getting hurt enough that they're flipping their cards now. And points wise, they gained nothing. Magneto was trying to hold that central flaming portal, but Cap is countering him, and the one down here is held by Colossus and War Machine, because Omega Red is the only other healthy conscious person there. So the Avengers score 1 for that portal, they score 1 for the far portal that the Hulkbuster is against, and the Hulkbuster has the Kree Power Core for another 2, so they gained 4, taking them to 5, so 5 plays 1 as we go into Battle Round 3, but the Brotherhood do maintain priority. So at the top of round 3, Magneto has made his metal construct right there. I fear that Steve Rogers may have walked into a trap. So despite all that, it was eventually Wanda that activated, not Magneto, first for the Brotherhood this turn, and she proved why you don't make the Scarlet Witch mad at you. She spent 6 on a cruel twist of fate to contort reality against poor Colossus, 6 damage reduced down by his organic metal roll to 5. Then she did a basic Hex Bolt just to finish him off. It did 2, it only needed to do 1, so he is dazed. She then spent 3 more power on telekinesis to pick up the size 4 crumbling building that was there and chuck it into the back of Magic's head, and she took 3 damage. I think she has 5 health on her wounded side, so she's only got 2 left, which kind of forces the issue on who's activating next. So Magic did activate and went all in on Omega Red, who isn't there anymore, so we're going to cover how he moved first, even though that was the last thing to happen, just to be clear. She used Journey Through Limbo, which is her card. Magic plays 3 to play this card. Choose a character within 2, friendly or otherwise, and place them within 3, they gain Incinerate. So she picked Omega Red and teleported him back 3 over here. But prior to all that, she spent 4 on Dark Child, which is her best sword attack, 6 dice Mystic. Although Omega Red has decent Mystic defense of 4, she counts skulls as successes in both the attack and the defense roll. Doesn't matter, she rolled badly, he fully blocked it. So then she just did her Soul Sword attack, which was 5 dice range 2 Mystic with Pierce on Wilds, and Omega Red was also able to block that. Oh, Dark Child also does Bleed and Incinerate, whether you do damage or not, and teleporting him also would have done Incinerate. So you got Incinerate from 2 sources, but Dark Child also does the bleed. So she wasn't able to hurt him, but she did force him back, and he moves small, so he's definitely going to have to waste an activation to get back towards the portal. But did want to take him out there because he's healthy still. Wasn't able to. The Juggernaut was next up for the Brotherhood, and first of all he just did a move action which put him kind of down by that stone down there. Unstoppable Momentum kicked in, so he generated 2 power, and his next attack gets 3 dice added in. He then spent 4 on I'm the Juggernaut, normally a 7 dice physical. Thanks to that Unstoppable Momentum it became 10 dice physical, and had a rush on it on a wild, which means after everything is resolved, he gets to use Nothing Stops the Juggernaut for free, which is the one where he's pushed small. You destroy scenery if you want to, or if you ram into a character, you hit them for 1. So he rolled the 10 dice attack against the Hulkbuster, who did spend 1 on Build to Take It. It did 6 damage, reduced down to 5, and that puts him at 7 damage of his 13 health so far. And rather than just hit him for 1 extra damage, the Juggernaut used that extra free movement from the proc on Nothing Stops the Juggernaut for free to put himself within contesting range of the Flaming Portal. Just realised that was a bit pointless though, because he's wounded and the Hulkbuster is not. But hey, it's, well, actually, we might as well retcon that he does the 1 damage, because he can't contest against him, so sure. We can just move him there. He rammed into him. He stops if he hits a character, rather than ploughing through like he does with scenery, and he just does 1 flat damage. So that is 6 damage all in all to the Hulkbuster there. So the Hulkbuster activated next for the Avengers, and it was time to drop the space laser on the Juggernaut. Specifically, it was time for the Helios laser bombardment. So Tony Stark's turn, it starts at a base 2, but anyone can chip in power to boost it up. Magic chipped in 2, Steve Rogers chipped in 6, and the Hulkbuster itself chipped in 3. All said and done, it did 4 damage, which got reduced down to 3 by Nice Punch. Not so great. This card has never worked out every time it's been used. But it's still fun to roll a lot of dice, and one of these days it's going to do like 10 damage and it's going to be brilliant. But in this case, not so much. So then, he spent 3 more power on Meteor Punch, which got the Juggernaut for 2, reduced to 1 damage again from Nice Punch. It includes a throw as long as it's size 4 or less, which he is, and it chucked him backwards into the stone for 1 additional damage. The Juggernaut has 8 health on his wounded side as well, so he's just over half dead now. And the Hulkbuster attacked, so the Kree Power Core does not hurt him. So Mega Red, that had been teleported through Limbo to get stuck all the way back here, activated, and he just ended up double small moving to get back into position here. But at the start of his activation, he played Carbonadium Synthesizer to get rid of those 2 nasty status effects on himself, to heal himself for 2 as well. It doesn't even cost him anything. He just heals and gains power for every status effect removed. So healed 2, got 2 power, and he ended his activation there. Now, he does have Death Spores where you pay 2 or 3, and then every character and himself, well, himself and every character within 2 of him which is poisoned would take 2 damage, and 2 damage is enough that Magic would die. But the poison on her would only proc when he ends his activation. So he can't do Death Spores to affect her, it'd only affect War Machine. 1 damage all said and done because of his damage reduction. Not super worth it for 2 damage against him. So he's not doing that, just to be clear, that's the order of operations. But he's sitting on a lot of power now, and he is still healthy, and he's a bit more healed now too. Captain America activated and decided to just do 2 of his 5 dice physical strikes on Magneto. First one absolutely whiffed, so Magneto was a bit overconfident, let's say, in not buffing his defense to use his Mystic Defense for the second one, and he paid for it a little bit because it did not too shabby, and hit him for 3. I think he has 2 health left in total now on his healthy side, but he is still healthy, and there was no wilds, so no push. Because he would get pushed, because it's size 3 or less on Steve's version of that. But nope, no push. And it is over to Magneto to end off the Brotherhood's turn. Magneto opened his turn with a reverse polarity on Steve and managed to do 5 damage to him, so that is him well and truly dazed. He already had 2 damage on him, so 3 was enough. Then he moves small over here, and then using his, it's not called telekinesis for him, that's his daughter. What's it called? Fatal Attraction. He paid to pick up the size 3 big old pile of barrels there, chuck them into the Hulkbuster. The Hulkbuster paid for Built to take it, so 3 damage because he whiffed his roll, down to 2. And with that, it's over to War Machine to end off the turn entirely. So it was over to War Machine, as said, and he opened up with his basic attack. What else can you do, really? Into Omega Red. 2 damage reduced to 1. He then went all in on Empty the Clip, the one that makes crits count as 2 successes, but he hurts himself afterwards for the crits he rolled. He didn't roll any. He rolled 1 hit and 1 wild in 8 dice. So 2 damage, reduced to 1, but he did get that bleed. Omega Red is still standing with 3 health left, I think, on his healthy side, so did not achieve much. And that does take us to scoring for the round. So then, about round 3, things are looking a little bit dicey for a lot of people. The Brotherhood have 2 people on their dazed side already, with Juggernaut getting fairly close to being taken out entirely. Magneto's close to getting dazed, but they did manage to hold the central portal, and they managed to make sure it was a draw over here. They gained 1 victory point, taking them to 2, so it's still not great. The Avengers, the Hulkbuster is almost down, it's got 3 health left, but it did hold on to the Kree Power Core for 2, he's holding that back portal for 1, so he gained 3 there. And as I said, this is a draw over here. So the Avengers are up to 8, 8 playing 2, as we go into Battle Round 4, with the Brotherhood still retaining priority. So Battle Round 4 got started what might be the most demoralising Magneto turn to have ever happened in the existence of anything. He started with a reverse polarity on the Hulkbuster, did no damage, but he gets a free push, so he pushed it towards him small. Doesn't have a size limit as far as we can tell. Then it was like, okay, this is the trap being sprung. Time for Magnetic Crush. Massive 5 power to spend, but he was sitting on 10. Range 4, 6 dice base, but you can destroy scenery size 3 or less within 3 to add to the dice pool. He destroyed both his constructs for an extra 4 dice thrown in. And there's the roll for it. Right there. 2 successes. And the defense roll was next to the Hulkbuster. He fully blocked it. So upon getting quite frustrated with that, Magneto then spent 3 to pick up the size 3 boulder that had been behind the Juggernaut there, with, again, magnetic reflection, what is it called? Fatal attraction, and chucked it at the Hulkbuster, and that got through for 1 damage, all said and done. On both attacks, the Magnetic Crush and the car being thrown at him, he did pay for Built to take it. So it was actually 2 damage from the car reduced to 1. But yeah, that's got to be demoralising. The Hulkbuster has 2 health left though, so he's still pretty close. But yeah, there is no way he should have survived that many dice. That just sucks. So the Hulkbuster activated and started with a heavy repulsor blast from where he originally started. He eventually did move into the Juggernaut. Just wanted to push him back really, but it spiked and it did 5 damage. It reduced. Well, sorry, no, it did do 4 damage. He could have paid. No, it did do 5. What am I talking about? It did do 5. He had 5 damage on him already, so it needed to do 4. So Nice Punch wouldn't have made a difference. Either way, it still did enough that the Juggernaut, sadly, is gone. He was fun though. He did a lot of fun stuff that round. But he is gone, which was more than expected. So then, with the extra power from that, Hulkbuster did a hit and run meteor punch for a total of 5 power. Well, actually, it would have been 4 because of Steve. Either way, he smacked Magneto upside the head, who did buff his defense, so he was using his 6 Mystic defense. Hit him for 4, because 4 is the magic number apparently, and dazed him. And then he moved back into position over there. I think this is the beginning of the end for the Brotherhood, if it wasn't already with the point difference. Wanda activated and paid 1 of her 2 power to travel through the dark dimension, taking the 1 damage in the process, to pop out here and do 2 hex bolts on the Hulkbuster. The first did no damage. The second one, however, did 3, which is 1 more than was required. He had no power with which to lower it, not that it would have made a difference. Hulkbuster's days, small Iron Man will be popping up if indeed there is another turn. Depends how the rest of this turn plays out. Wanda had 1 power left to pick up the core, so she is now holding the core and technically holding that portal. If she gets taken out, it's all over though, so we'll see how things go. So it was Colossus's turn to pay 1 to travel through the dark dimension. He did successfully, popped out next to Wanda. Did an X-slam on her, which did give her a stun. 7 dice physical. Didn't do too well though. He only did 2 to her, so he did a basic strike for his other action, and that did 1. Wanda had 1 damage on her from travelling through the dark dimension. She's got 6 health in total, so she's got 2 left. Captain America, War Machine, Magic, they might be able to take her out. It's over to Omega Red first though. So Omega Red kind of went in on a Hail Mary play and accidentally may have guffed it up. He started with his best attack, Red Terror. I think in total he paid like 6 or 7 power in his turn. Red Terror on War Machine to try and get him off his healthy side, and only did 2 damage, reduced down to 1 because of his titanium alloy. He then spent 2 on Death Spores, so he and anyone who's poisoned within 2 of them take 2 flat damage. Presumably that also is reduced, so that's why War Machine has an additional 1 there. But the 2 damage to Magic just kills her, so she is gone. And he takes 2 damage from that, and he didn't cure his bleed during his turn. So the 1 damage he's taking from the bleed now will in fact daze him. So it came down to Captain America to save the day. He paid 1 to go through the portal rather, and then he paid 2 for a shield slam into poor Wanda. Did pretty well with it. 4 damage, much more than was required, that she is actually now gone because she was on her dazed side. So she's off the table. He had enough power left to take the core, and we are going to call it there because Magneto and Omega Red are flipping their cards. Even if they dominated Battle Round 5 and 6, they would not be able to cover the point spread. So we're just going to go to the scoring for this round now, because there's no one left, but that is also going to be the conclusion to the game. So just to wrap things up officially here on a table that is much more empty than when the fight started, it was very fun. Well, Steve has the core for 2, they're holding the back portal up there for 1, and down here War Machine is holding this as well for 1, bringing the Avengers to 12 of the 16 required at the end of Battle Round 4. The Brotherhood earn none there at all, and it means they're still stuck at 2. Hence what I was saying, even if they dominated turn 5 and 6, they can't cover the point spread with as much as they can gather. Feasibly, like if the Avengers literally went out of their way to make sure that they didn't do anything, then possibly, but that's obviously not going to happen. So we are going to call it there. That was a fun match, and it was great having the Hulkbuster and the Juggernaut duke it out. The Juggernaut was just really, really fun. And again, working with Magneto's affiliation bonus to just constantly dish out power. The Brotherhood is tough because they have a lot of people who don't like being moved around because they're short movement. And they have a lot of powerful characters, but if you take enough of them, you get swamped by lists with more numbers. The Hulkbuster can certainly hold his own against the strongest this list had to offer. And to Omega Red, get rid of Omega Red, get rid of Scarlet Witch, bring like Toad, Quicksilver, Mystique instead for I think the same cost. And I think the Brotherhood probably would have been easily able to subdue the Avengers here. Have Juggernaut distract the Hulkbuster, and then just have Magneto backed up by the rest of the team just take everybody out piece by piece. Would have been nice to see Magic go against Scarlet Witch. Oh yeah, that's right, they're both dead, they're not on the table. But didn't work out that way, which is a bit of a shame. Magic also would have been pretty decent against Juggernaut once he flips, because he loses his helmet when he flips, so his Mystic Defense becomes garbage. So that's how you take him out quickly on his flip side. But yeah, either way, really fun. The Juggernaut is just great fun in general. Really happy to see him on the table. We'll look forward to seeing him again real soon, I think. Thank you for watching, and ta-ta for now.